The Assassin's Creed games have been around almost 20 years, and the long-awaited Feudal Japan setting is finally coming. After a short delay, Assassin's Creed Shadows is coming out March 20th, and under much controversy, a split fan base. Here is the preview of Assassin's Creed Shadows. This is Colteastwood. Thank you so much for checking out this video. I got a hands-on preview of Assassin's Creed Shadows, playing the game for over 4 hours. Be warned, you're about to hear a preview from a big fan of Assassin's Creed with a few complaints and concerns. I will dive into the gameplay mechanics, the world, the tone, and show you what you can expect when Assassin's Creed Shadows comes out March 20th, 2025. Special thanks for Ubisoft for including me in this hands-on preview. I played Assassin's Creed Shadows on PC through their Ubisoft Connect cloud streaming service. My cable internet is very much capable, but I ended up playing a lot of the game in what felt like to me sub 30 FPS with lower quality visuals, but this was a digital remote preview. All of the footage here has been captured by Ubisoft of my gameplay at 1080p 60 FPS. Let's start off with the first reason why you're probably here to see this gameplay and the preview for Assassin's Creed Shadows, and that's probably because of the controversy of one of the main playable characters, Yasuke, who is an African samurai. You also play as a shinobi named Navi, but the choice of Ubisoft to use a character like this has been mired in controversy, where half of the fan base is split between not wanting to support this game at all, and the other half really excited to see the new tone and what they've set here for Assassin's Creed. The way they treat Yasuke in the character and the tone of introducing him to the world in Japan sets expectations of how Yasuke is just a simple servant and brought into the service of Nobunaga to become a samurai warrior. All historical accuracies pushed aside, this is a video game, and this fictional setting sets up Yasuke to become a samurai in the story. But that's not what I did as soon as I got hands-on with the game. At first opportunity, I chose to play as a female shinobi, Navi. And her story is so unique as she starts out young with strong motivations to go and risk her life to fight for her people. Everything you expect from an Assassin's Creed open world game is here, with hallmarks from my favorite Assassin's Creed that made 2018's Assassin's Creed Odyssey. The world is huge and beautiful, and it reminds me so much of Ghost of Tsushima, the PlayStation game that came out just a few years ago. Many similarities will be made over and over to Ghost of Tsushima, as these have so many of the same mechanics, art style, and the same tone. Cinematics and the graphics in the world, a lighting model that is very impressive. It even transfers over into actual gameplay, but the physical models of the characters and the lighting, the way that their skin looks, is an incredible presentation. And Assassin's Creed and the Ubisoft team continue to push the envelope of really incredible open world graphics. We were set free to play up to 4 hours, jumping into an open world game in a limited time preview, even with 4 hours of playtime available to me, was so overwhelming and daunting. The map is absolutely massive, and I only got to take a look at about a quarter or maybe half of it. I was so overwhelmed as I didn't understand what was available in the open world to explore or what quests I should take on first. But my experience with Assassin's Creed games, about 100 hours in Ghost of Tsushima, I knew what I was getting into, and a lot of the mechanics and feel was so familiar, and that was a good thing. Let's talk about the gameplay and the combat. A lot of the combat that you'll see here is troubled by me dealing with the latency and the lower frame rate that was presented to me through Ubisoft Connect remote play. Combat is contextual, and you can get close to your enemies and strike at them or wait for blocking and parry maneuvers. Playing as Navi, she was so quick and agile, and the time-based parry system was so important because Navi takes so much damage. Your katana is quick and swift. And when you make a mistake and take damage, you'll be able to use a healing ration right away during combat. I was actually so overwhelmed in the moment that I didn't take time to look at the different direction pad powers that you have available to you. On the left, you can heal yourself, you can switch to a katana or a secondary weapon, And on the right, you have right trigger plus face button combos as you build up a meter of successive hits on the enemy, just like you saw in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Once you've hit a few enemies over and over, that meter will fill up and you can hold right trigger and X and you can do a super kick to knock enemies back and give yourself room to breathe and time to get back into the fight. If you hold down right trigger and Y, Navi will do a long distance super strike, bridging the gap between her and the enemy so you can take down their health bar. Just like Ghost of Tsushima, when an enemy is crawling on the ground, you can go over and do a ground strike. But in Ghost of Tsushima, this is an automatic kill. In Assassin's Creed, it takes down a few health bars, which is pretty frustrating. Understanding Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed options for accessibility, I didn't take the time to look, but normally they can take these down to be an actual kill strike, which you should be able to use to tailor the gameplay to your liking or more realism. They did a really great job making Yasuke and Navi two totally different characters, something that we've never really seen in an Assassin's Creed game. And it's super evident when you take Navi out into the open world and start to parkour and climb around buildings. She is so much more agile, quick, and she also has this cool grappling hook that you can use to get up and reach roof lines that you normally wouldn't be able to climb to. One of the problems that I had with her grappling hook is that you can't use it at a distance to reach over and grab a roofline grapple, kind of like a Spider-Man character. There are contextual branches or posts where you can use her grapple to swing across gaps. And it lets you grapple off camera by telling you that there's an indicator, but it doesn't feel as smooth or free-flowing like I'd hoped it would be. One of the mechanics of the open world Assassin's Creed is to get up to a vantage point and check out your environment. And you can use these where you'll find viewpoints that will open up the local part of that world for you. But much like you do in State of Decay or Ghost Recon, you actually scout around and look at icons and add them to your map organically. Looking at that map, it's not clear right away which are enemy fortresses or which are friendly outposts. Instead, you'll get question marks which will name a location. You can check those out for yourself. Assassin's Creed Shadows instead inspires you to use organic or natural gameplay to learn where you need to go in a quest line instead of just giving you a waypoint hundreds of meters away and running straight for that objective. The combat is really challenging, and I don't know if part of that was because of the streaming limitations, but the enemies really bear down on you and you can become overwhelmed so quickly. The katana strikes, dodge rolls, and using your special powers. I was constantly using my health rations to get out of a bind so I wouldn't have to reload a save. In fact, at points of the game, it was more advantageous for me to get up and run away and break the line of sight, something I haven't done in an Assassin's Creed game since the early couple of titles back in 2007. This is where the dual player character mechanic is actually really meaningful, and I'll get into that in just a moment. I took on a quest line as Navi to stop thieving merchants, and I tried to attack them head on, and when I did, I became completely overwhelmed from each side, striking quickly, trying to parry and use all of my abilities to stay alive and take down each and every enemy by attrition so I could survive the fight. And I failed a couple of times. Then I tried actually speaking with the merchants, and this was really cool. It offered an actual impactful choice where I could talk to them instead of engaging into a fight right away. When things went sour, back into the fight, and I had to try to survive yet again. In perfect Assassin's Creed fashion, I was able to try different approaches like mix of stealth and a mix of using tools like smoke bombs or throwing knives to try and knock down a few of the enemies so I wasn't outnumbered. The dual player mechanic came in clutch as I stopped, went into the menu, and chose to play as Yasuke, as I know he's far more armored, heavier hitting, and could take on much more damage than Navi the shinobi. The playstyles and of course the controls are so similar between Navi and Yasuke. The animations and the style of each character, especially with Yasuke, he is slower and uses more brute force. And depending on the way you want to take on an enemy fortress, you might want to try a mix of stealth, even if you're going in with a tank like Yasuke. The Assassin's Creed games have brought on an incredible amount of customization, and I saw just a little bit of it here in this remote playthrough, where you could change your different armor sets, helmets, different styles of weapons, and everything is tiered by a color system with epic and legendary that was available to us midway through the game. Now, I'm not an expert when it comes to historical Japanese settings or any of the lore, but I've seen enough source material or played enough of Ghost of Tsushima of attention to detail that I hope has improved over the previous showings of Assassin's Creed Shadows that really upset people that understand and remember exactly how things should be in feudal Japan. The game and the world is absolutely gorgeous. And if they've course corrected things that were not correct culturally, that is super important. Let's talk about Yasuke and his gameplay mechanics for just a moment. He is a lumbering tank, and one of the funniest realizations I had was that he couldn't really parkour. I went up to some walls or some roof lines that I just couldn't even reach. And then there was a moment where I tried to walk across a rope bridge and he broke it and fell to the ground. There are limitations for each of the characters, and it allows a play style that lets you try out both characters even if one is your favorite over the other. Yasuke's combat mechanics are very satisfying. There's so much blood on the battlefield, and the heavy, impactful strikes and camera shakes really make you feel like you're hitting somebody with a heavy wielded katana. Yasuke's assassinations are some of the most brutal I've seen in the series, where he lifts up enemies with his katana and drops them to the ground. The little fine attention to details where he wipes off the blood from the katana and resheaths it looks really cool. Something that was done so well in Ghost of Tsushima. Watching him climb around the world and try to sneak in behind cover, his overall size is so big. Seeing him standing next to other characters or even next to Naoe, he is over a foot taller than everybody in the world. And trying to crawl around and be stealthy in this game can be pretty funny, but it can work if you're patient. I did see a couple of glitches in my playtime. I had over 4 hours with the game, and there was this one moment where I tried to air assassinate an enemy and it missed him, and he kind of stood there while I swiped at him. But overall, the presentation was really solid, and they've taken this extra couple of months to make the game look and feel better. One of my major gripes as I played through the game was that I felt so lost and overwhelmed by where I should go or what I should do, especially with the time constraint. Even though it was 4 hours, there were times where I felt like there's a lot here in the world, but I don't know which enemies I should attack or what I should take on. There were even moments where I felt like, how do I get to the quest line? And you can go into the menu and highlight it, but you have to read the clues. Some of them said to go to 3 different villages to find out how to move the objective forward. And I felt like I was wasting my time, or that the pacing could have been a lot faster. I am a purveyor of the Assassin's Creed open world games, and I understand what it's like to go out and go right and left and up and down and around and just organically explore. It's one of my favorite things that the Assassin's Creed series has evolved to, that has bothered or split the fan base that doesn't like that it's been an open world RPG. This is my favorite thing, so when I'm playing it in Assassin's Creed, I'm really enjoying that gameplay loop. As far as I could tell, there aren't strictly outlined enemy outposts just like we saw in Assassin's Creed Odyssey or Assassin's Creed Origins, and I felt like I would just want to go to a big fortress and see what I can take on. They're there, but I had to find them organically. So take that as you will if that's something that you would enjoy over just being told, hey, go here, it's on the map. Naoe has a couple of tools at her disposal that I was able to kind of get a grip on when I was playing the game. One was the kunai, which are the throwing knives. She has shurikens, which don't really do any damage. There was a moment where I threw them several times at an enemy and it was just chipping away his health bar. That was pretty frustrating. But she also has a smoke bomb or a rock lure to get enemies to move away so you can get behind them. But the smoke bomb was really great. Throwing it at a distance and closing in and assassinating them with one button press, and they were down. As Naoe, you truly feel fragile. You feel light and you feel quick, but you feel like you can take so much damage so quickly, so you feel like you need to be very careful when you play as the shinobi. But when you switch over to Yasuke, you feel like you can be more forward, you can take on attacks or more enemies at a time. Yasuke also has a black powder rifle, which is very slow to use, but can take off a ton of health at range. You can even use it when they're closing the gap to you, and once they've closed in, back to the katana to strike, block, parry, and take them down as quickly as possible. When you have 2 or 3 enemies on you, or 4 or 5, you're probably going to have a difficult fight ahead of you, and the prospect of reloading a checkpoint can make you stop, be patient, and make sure you take out each enemy with precision. But it all happens organically. It's all time-based, how quick you can move and react to their attacks. There's a bunch of mechanics in the open world where you can go up and pray to a shrine or observe wildlife and paint haikus. None of this I really stopped to take time in this playthrough to do, but there's also a huge mechanic where you can gather materials. I didn't understand this at the time, but you can gather materials in different villages and they will hold them aside, and you can build your own base of operations in the world. You can build an entire village. This can all be fully customizable to the layout and to the styling and how it looks, and you can use this base of operation to have your own soldiers that you can call in. There was a moment where I called in 2 different soldiers on a heavier armored enemy, and they came in like Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and started fighting them for me, and I also came in and helped that fight end more quickly. I can see how satisfying this mechanic is going to be if you take the time to level up soldiers to fight on your side that can be called in immediately with the press of a direction button. I'm looking forward to this, especially since I saw how difficult and challenging the game can be in combat when it's just you versus a lot of enemies. If you're wondering about story or tone or what the big quest lines are going to be in the main story, I didn't get to experience a lot of that, but the cutscenes I did watch, which were unskippable in this remote play, were really high quality. The voice acting, even in English, and there is a full Japanese dub available in many other languages, the cutscenes were really great. The tone of the characters, they felt serious, they felt heavy, and this is sometimes missing in modern games where they try to take things so lightly to make sure people are having fun. It looks like Ubisoft wanted to make a mature, story-driven game set in Feudal Japan, and it's something that I'm going to experience all for myself when the game comes out. And I have to say, Naoi is such a great character. She is so fierce and convicted. And then her friendship and alliance with Yasuke, the way that Yasuke is handled, I was so looking forward to this because he looked like a really cool hulking character. And he's so solemn and quiet and humble and strong. And I know a lot of people may not want Yasuke to be in the game, but I'm thinking you might be won over by his sheer power and his impact on this world. It takes place in a fictional story where Yasuke is given charge to fight for Lord Nobunaga. And yes, it's not historically accurate. Yes, there are tons of anime, other video games that have Yasuke the samurai in them. And yes, they could have used a traditional male Japanese samurai character in this game. But I think what we get here with Yasuke and Naoi gives this complete split polar opposite of 2 characters in a massive open world game in its own story that it's telling. I didn't even get to scratch the surface of any of the gameplay mechanics, the extra tools and weaponry, or any of the open world organic gameplay or emergent moments that were available. There is so much to do. I can only assume that this game is probably 50 plus hours. It sounds like Assassin's Creed Shadows is not supposed to be never ending like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but this tone, this setting has been long awaited by fans. We've been waiting and asking for Feudal Japan since the very beginning of the series, and I was so glad that I got a chance to play hands-on with the game. I want to play this game natively because the Ubisoft Connect streaming service is so limited with so much latency, and I wanted to see this game in its true glory, and I didn't get to see it until they provided my actual native gameplay footage that was recorded on their end. Everything you saw here today was me playing the game for 2.5 hours. We got to play for over 2 hours of the opening prologue that shows the genesis of both of these great characters. I know you're apprehensive about Assassin's Creed Shadows. I was too. What I've seen and what I've played here really impressed me. There are problems. Like I said, there's pacing. Maybe the open world won't be quite as full as we'd expected. I'm not looking forward to aimless wandering if I don't understand how to get around the world or to find things to do. But the combat seems to be really challenging, which means hopefully there's a bit more depth there as you switch between different tools or different weapons, and that the gear feels really meaningful and impactful, that you'll want to apply certain sets for your character to get the gameplay experience you want. We are about 2 months away from the official release of Assassin's Creed Shadows on March 20th, 2025, but I can already tell that I'm going to set aside a ton of time to just live in the world of Feudal Japan, learn the history from the story that unfolds, and get to know the characters Yasuke and Naoe a lot better, and find out which one truly becomes my favorite character to play as. I hope Assassin's Creed Shadows delivers. I love the franchise, and they need to deliver so we can see where the Assassin's Creed franchise takes us to next time. This is Colteastwood. Thank you so much for checking out this preview. Special thanks for Ubisoft and including me in the digital hands-on preview of Assassin's Creed Shadows. I'm a longtime fan of the franchise. There's only a couple games in the series that I don't love, and I'm really looking forward to Assassin's Creed Shadows. I am concerned about the pacing or the open world, and my short time, 4 hours with the game, really convinced me that I can't wait to play it. There is that controversy that people have to get over, and there's nothing I can say that would convince anybody on either side either way. But if you can, I think Assassin's Creed Shadows offers you something really great that you'll probably sink some 50 or 60 hours into. If you end up enjoying this video, let me know by liking and subscribing to the channel. Hit the bell to be notified of new weekly content. If you want to further support what we're doing here on the Colteastwood channel, you can hit the join button below. That'll get you early access for videos every week. Also, check out the Patreon in the description. There are several tiers there. We also have the super class where you can learn how to do video production, lighting, audio, thumbnails. Also, check out the Ecstasy podcast that runs every Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific to 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll talk about the games, the new Developer Direct that was up today, and so much more. Check that out. That's live on YouTube and on Spotify and Apple Podcasts on demand. Let me know what you think of Assassin's Creed Shadows preview. Was it what you expected? Are you going to play it day one, or are you completely avoiding it? Let me know in the comment section. And while you do, it's going to be a very messy comment section, especially if you look at the last video I did. It could be pretty dicey, but while you're there, please be nice.